These are the kind of questions that we're going to be talking about in 6 months, in my opinion. Like, does somebody know a good supplier of winter tires for Lambos, right? Like, that's, if you're into PulseChain now, that might be your main concern.
Bro.
It's like on everyone's top of their mind. So it's like, oh no, will I be able to get winter tires for my Lamborghini? Will they fit?
You heard it first. You heard it first here. Remind us in 6 months. We'll have the Lambo debate, and hopefully we'll be far enough along to make that make sense. Yes. Gents, the big man tweeted. He tweeted a thing.
He did.
He did. I'll read a little bit of it.
This is the best marketing piece he's tweeted, but it was kind of interesting, and he had some very good points about security and child rearing and virgins, and yeah, I liked it.
I just like the last line.
The last one. Well, here we go. Let's skip to it, Ren. If you want to have 2 kids divide a cake evenly amongst themselves, you have the first kid cut next year. Yeah, that is the thing I've heard, and I can confirm that is probably that makes sense. Yeah,
I think that is the way to do it. So that's what I pulled from the tweet.
Yeah, the rest of it's just mostly like, like Fast said, it's mostly like. Well, let's read a little bit and we'll get into it. The myth of Richard Hart approved. Nearly nothing. He loves to say nearly. I have yet to see. I'm sure there is some tweet about him saying absolutes, but he usually puts nearly in these things. It's like almost a Richard Hart-ism at this point. Nearly
that
nothing.
Or question marks, not absolute.
I think the question marks are strategic, where you can't say, "Oh, I didn't say that was going to happen. I questioned it." I think those are strategic. Sure. Definitely part of the vernacular. I don't know what the expression is for the language piece, but I explained to you the risks and how you can do things better. Hopefully you'll take the advice and it works out for you. So once again, I'm going to tell you how to do things better and hope it helps you. Reduce your counterparty risk by spreading your transactions out. All off-chain exchanges and all bridges have counterparty risk. You greatly reduce their risk to you if you just spread out whatever you're doing over smaller transactions. So in case anyone doesn't know what that means, what I took from it was, it's kind of like going back to, instead of sending, a $10,000 or $100,000 a big transaction over to, like, for example, you send it to a new address or something, and you're like, okay, you're sweating. Is this the right address? Did I double check everything? If you just do like a test send, you send like 1 ETH instead of sending 100 ETH, for example, then hey, that address worked. That transaction went through instead of sending all at once. So it's kind of in the same vein as that. The way I took it is, you can, if you're afraid of bridges, you're afraid of like some service or whatever, then don't do a huge transaction over it. Just do like a few smaller ones in case in the middle something goes wrong with the other ones, you don't lose everything. Is that what you guys got from that?
That was a good point. I'll also say, I think he said it in the tweet, but it's pretty much for everything, right? I think especially even for exchanges, whether it's like a bridge or even if it's like a new DEX or something, you can always try it out with like a few dollars, especially on PulseChain. It's not expensive to swap a few dollars, right? It might cost you a few pennies, but yeah. And I think if you're doing deposits on exchanges and stuff, you probably want to not, I mean, you definitely can just throw it all in at once, but you probably want to make sure you at least test it first, make sure everything goes through smooth, and then, kind of throw it in smaller chunks like he's saying. Because if something goes wrong, like it is true, like no one wants to deal with that. So if it is, like, if it does go wrong, hopefully it's not with a substantial amount of funds, right? So.
And even if you were moving, substantial to some people, like $10,000, you could still move it through, the condom wallet, right? Because it doesn't mean that your other wallet would be infected. So even if you're like, okay, I'm moving this out to a centralized exchange to cash out, or I'm moving in from a centralized exchange, like you can roll between like a barrier wallet to your main wallets, and there's no harm done for doing that, right? Like, it's going to cost you 10 cents extra in gas if you're doing it on PulseChain. It's not a bad thing to always use that. And I use that in my wallets. I'll have like a wallet, like an in wallet and out wallet, right? Like you can, for new people, like with MetaMask or Rabby or Internet Money, you can just click the add wallet button and create a new address within the wallet, right? So that's on the main seed phrase, but you can have like 50 wallets underneath this main seed phrase. And if something goes wrong with one of them, it won't affect the other ones as long as you keep your seed phrase safe.
I saw a post, and maybe this is why Richard maybe brought it up at least a little bit. And I'm not going to be able to find the post, but I saw someone, I think there was a malicious smart contract that drained some people's tokens from them setting approvals like 400 plus days ago or something like this. Like they had done it like a long time ago to the point where you probably even forgot you had set those approvals in the first place. And if you're doing that on your main wallet, like it's like, it's not ideal, right? Like Fast is saying, it's pretty much always best practice. And of course, like, you just want to be careful if you're moving funds in any way, right? But moving it into like a hot wallet or a different cold wallet to set your approvals, do your swaps, do all that type of stuff, and then transfer those funds into a wallet that pretty much doesn't do anything other than send and receive tokens, right? Doesn't have any approvals, doesn't interact with any smart contracts, doesn't go clicking on a bunch of dApps, right? That type of stuff. So I think that's another kind of a security layer you guys can have, which is what Richard's saying. It's free. It's free, right? It might cost you a little bit extra time and just pay a little bit more attention when you're doing all that type of stuff, but it will likely save you in the future, especially if like the smart contracts sometimes don't even need to be malicious. Like maybe there's a bug and someone has an exploit, right? Stuff like that. So you can never be too careful in crypto. So
yeah, that's a great plug for Revoke Cash too. It's always good to limit your approvals whenever you're not actively using the dApp, especially for NFT marketplaces. It reduces the risk of losing your funds to hacks or exploits. Can also help mitigate the damage of phishing scams. So yeah, in general, like if you just go and revoke stuff you're not using, then you just, in case there is some issue of some sort, whether it's malicious or unintended or some new kind of attack where they like get you to click through the stuff and do it or whatever, then you wouldn't be affected unless you do another approval for it. So it's like just kind of defense in depth is what you call it in security. It's trying to make it harder for these things to happen.
Yeah, revoke.cash is a great tool. I think, especially for new people, like if you're not sure, like do this once a month, like revoke all your approvals. Like aside from, again, like a minor amount of gas cost to do it, it's not going to be, nothing bad happens when you revoke an approval, to my knowledge. Do your own research, but yeah, I don't think aside from the gas cost there's any penalty to revoking an approval.
Yeah, it just means you got to do it again if you want to use the app. You made an approval so you can use the app or use the contract or do whatever function, and then you're revoking that, you're removing it, and so that's tough from understanding.
The other one that I think new people should look at is when you do approvals, like in most wallets, there's you're approving for a certain amount, and they often default to the max or some crazy number, right? Like you'll do an approval
like unlimited
for
usually.
USDC and it'll default to like $7 million. Like you can go in and edit that to only default it, like to set the approval for $400, so that it can't infinitely, access those funds. And of course, you'd have to do the approval again if you want to move more than $400. Yeah. But setting limits on your approvals, not a terrible plan.
That's the thing. I think there's some nuance between, commonly hear people say, oh, never use unlimited approvals, never do all this stuff. And if you don't, then like you pointed out, then okay, if you want to do more than that at some point, then you got to redo it again, do it again. So it's just one of those, the way the tech works is kind of annoying. Maybe there's some EIP that'll fix it in the future, but it's kind of like you don't really have a good option. It's either, and of course, most people are going to trade the flexibility and ease of use for the, the security theory part of it a lot of times, or they're just going to yell, never do unlimited approvals, never. It's like, if am I going to be more concerned about doing unlimited approvals with PulseX because I know it's like not a scam thing, and I know like it's not going to like take all my money one day, even though there's again the approval defense depth stuff all that we talked about by just either not doing it or revoking it when you're not using it. Sure, but at the same time, like I would be much more up for doing by doing limited approvals for some new app I've never used before or some shady thing I need to do to get some airdrop or whatever than I would with like some of the official stuff. So that's kind of the way I look at it, because if you're saying no, never do unlimited approvals, then depends on how much you're trading, how much you're transacting. It's gonna be super annoying, and eventually you may convince yourself to be like, oh fuck this, I'm gonna do unlimited now, and you just kind of like it just turns into that. So it's just a unfortunate feature of how the blockchain works as of now. So hopefully in the future, Vitalik, Big Brain, Alien, get us some new features, get us some new AIPs. PulseChain can pick them up, make that easier.
Richard's condom wallet is kind of a fix for that concept, right? Because like you could have a wallet where you do have unlimited approvals with that you only move through to do certain things, and but there's no money left sitting in there. That all gets sent to your secure, hardware wallet supported.
There you go. Maybe that's the solution, is using a condom wallet with unlimited approvals only, not using unlimited approvals with your bigger wallets or something. Maybe that's like makes things easier.
Concept.
Yeah, I think I'll say just
go ahead.
I'll say just on that, like I think if you have a cold, like let's say you have a cold, let's say it's your treasure chest, your cold wallet, extremely cold wallet, you want to keep all those funds secure. I don't think it's best practice to have any sort of approval set up there, like Richard's saying. Like, just, of course it's extra steps, but you should probably have a condom wallet or one of those transaction wallets to just, ensure your treasure chest stays, there and not somewhere else. So,
yep.
But enough about prophylactics. What else does Richard say?
Well, I think he kind of turned it. He is elaborating further on maybe some specific example of what he's talking about. A lot of people may guess Liberty Swap here. Let's see what you guys think. For instance, if a bridge is really fast and affordable because it doesn't have a bunch of validators that have to approve a bunch of multi-sig confirmations, it's faster and cheaper, but in theory has more counterparty risk because it doesn't require a collusion of validators to make problems. Okay, that was these sentences. So if you're using a faster, cheaper bridge, know that it's more risky, but you can reduce risk by splitting up your bridging over time. So if something goes wrong, it goes wrong far less. Works for all kinds of transactions. There was a smiley face there. Works for all kinds of transactions. What is that? You guys read something into that? Why there's a smiley face there? Anybody know?
It's transactions.
Because he's talking about I would think if this is Liberty Swap, for example, then there's
I might just be in context if he's not trying to attack anyone's projects, but just saying something kind of in general still.
No, I don't think he's saying anything bad about anything. I think he's just saying like, because again, this is my instinct from it is a lot of people are using a Liberty Swap and applying them all that stuff, and rightfully so. They've been doing an amazing job getting PulseChain from other bridges and stuff easier. And he's just comparing like the regular bridge or any bridge or that service to something else. And I guess this even came up because maybe people were saying Richard hard approved because you tweeted about it or has on PulseChain.com. That was my first.
Yeah, that could be. Though Liberty Swap's not really a bridge. Like I think most of or all of the things that come to PulseChain via Liberty Swap are pretty much actually coming over via the RH bridge. They're more of like a cross-chain swap app that has a pool of liquidity on PulseChain, so they can pay you out quickly on the other side. Though, I'm sure there's a bit of a nod to Liberty Swap here.
Where'd you learn that? Was that on a recent stream?
I was on some show with some guy. I don't know. I think he was smart.
Is that the Crypto Solve guy? He was pretty good.
He was pretty sharp, wasn't he?
How does work? I'm trying to find the clip for that too. Here we go. So that's where we talked about how does Liberty Swap and how does Gibbs finance work, which is not a lot of people know. Like I didn't know, like I knew a little bit about it, but I didn't, I wasn't quite aware of he was saying that, I'll drop this in chat if anyone wants to watch it. He was talking about how
I learned I knew a little bit, but that was great. I learned a lot from him about how it actually worked, and it just made sense, right? So if you want to know what Liberty Swap is, watch this clip.
Yeah, because there is some counterparty risk, I guess you would say, because they got to move. I mean, I guess to make it work, I'm trying to think of like, is there counterparty risk around the fund, or is there counterparty risk around just making it work smoothly because they got to do the liquidity, make sure there's liquidity for tokens and stuff? Can't remember what he was talking about.
There's some risk around the funds because, like you are using another smart contract, somebody's bridging for you. But when you start to think about the amount of counterparty risk, depending on what you're doing, like let's say you were moving from Base to PulseChain, right? There's multiple bridge transactions involved in that, right? Like it's probably going from Base to Ethereum and then Ethereum to PulseChain. They're handling all of that part. Like and you would normally have to do that 2 bridges yourself, right? So you click the button once, somebody does 2 transactions on your behalf. For a lot of people, that would actually be less risk, in my opinion. If you're just talking about bridging from like Ethereum to PulseChain, then like technically less risk and just using the RH bridge yourself. But it would be, yeah, if you're coming from Arbitrum, like, most people wouldn't even be able to wouldn't even know how to do that, and you'd be more likely to make a mistake. They obviously have the roots figured out.
Somebody wrote the image is 369 kilobytes. And now I'm asking the AI if that's true. I'm curious. Maybe it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, so it's I think he's just talking about this where it's I quote tweeted and talked about this a little bit where whether he did pump tires, whether he's behind Liberty Swap, whether it's approved, whether it's not, like I don't know. It's I think the most important part of this was let's see. Yeah, this one. There we go. Things must be good or bad based on your evaluation of them and how you use them. Never let someone tell you Richard Hart approved and you dare use their statement to replace your own due diligence. DYOR. There you go. You must reward that which is good by knowing better from worse, using your own mind. Yeah. So I never like to see anyone be like, oh, Richard said this or Richard approved this or whatever. I'm always like, unless I see it from him myself, I never take it. Yeah, I don't think that unless he tweets about it and directly says I am behind this or I did this or I approve this or I like this or whatever. Anyways, he's just saying think instead of just get it from other people. Did he say anything that's we're lucky to have awesome computer science breakthroughs? I always feel like, is he ever pointing to something on this or is he just saying in general? Like, did PulseChain devs make a computer science breakthrough, or is he just saying like, is this like a casual statement?
I think he's just talking about how open source is good. Like, and it's less
I'm
common.
trying to read something into it, but right? I can't see anything. Less common for, most blockchain stuff is open source, I would say. Most of the network side, at least.
Yeah, but not on the protocol side, the code side. There's lots of not open source things.
I would say on the front ends, but every verified contract is technically open source. That's why maybe verify them. But then you can't read the source, and this whole debate of like, oh, what's it mean to, should they be everything be verified or not, so you can read it, or what about intellectual property? I guess there's a whole debate on that too, but I don't know. I'm always on this statement. I'm always like, is he saying, because he said this probably 2 or 3 times about computer science breakthroughs. I think, is he pointing to something coming that is a breakthrough that we're gonna see, or is it just be grateful? Maybe be grateful. Could be.